Okay, so welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Always fun.
Yeah, and today we're going to be looking at something kind of interesting and, a little bit different.
A little cloak and dagger.
Yeah, cloak and dagger is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
We're diving into a declassified CIA intelligence report from 1949.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can actually find this in the Crest Archive, which is this, really cool collection of declassified intelligence documents.
Amazing what they release now, right?
Oh, it's wild, the stuff that's in there. And this report, it hints at a plan that could have just completely reshaped the Horn of Africa.
Reshaped it in a way that I don't think a lot of people would anticipate.
Right, and especially for the time period.
Exactly.
So to set the stage, it's April 1st, 1949.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah, so maybe appropriate or not, but it's the early days of the Cold War. The world is kind of watching to see how this newly formed United Nations,
Brand new.
handles this big question of what to do with Eritrea.
Right, because Eritrea had been an Italian colony.
Right, exactly.
And it was under British administration at this point.
Right.
And Ethiopia is saying, no, this is ours.
This is ours. This should be part of Ethiopia.
Historically, it's part of Ethiopia.
Exactly. And this report suggests that they were ready to do whatever it took.
Whatever it took to make that happen.
To make that happen.
Yeah.
And so the UN is kind of this, this new kid on the block, right?
Right.
Trying to establish its authority. And here you have Ethiopia who's potentially saying,
Yeah, we're not going to listen to you.
we're not going to listen to you. We're going to do what we want.
If you don't rule in our favor, we're going to take it.
Exactly. And so this report, it's based on information from an informant who was said to have really close ties to Ethiopian ministers.
Right.
And it claims that Ethiopia was actually prepared to launch a military operation against Eritrea if the UN ruled against them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're going to defy the UN, potentially?
Potentially, yeah.
And there's even more. The report even says that they were secretly buying weapons from Czechoslovakia?
Oh, wow. And so for context, Czechoslovakia at the time was a Soviet ally.
Very much so.
Yeah, so this is a huge deal in the middle of the Cold War.
Absolutely. This is Ethiopia, a country that historically has had ties to the West.
Right.
Is now going to the Soviet bloc for weapons.
What does that tell you?
That tells me that they are serious about this.
They're not messing around.
They are not messing around. They are willing to risk alienating their Western allies to get what they want, which is Eritrea.
Yeah, and it really just speaks to how high the stakes were at this time, like the global power dynamics of the Cold War.
Oh, absolutely. This is the U.S. and the Soviet Union are vying for influence all over the world.
Right.
And the Horn of Africa is a strategically important region. So for Ethiopia to even consider aligning themselves with the Soviets, that's a major shift.
That could have, potentially drawn the superpowers into a conflict in that region.
Absolutely. This is a local dispute that could have very easily escalated into an international crisis.
And we also see in this report that this informant's view that the UN was basically powerless.
Right. They thought they could just push the UN around.
Yeah.
Force was the only thing that mattered.
And it's interesting to see that perspective from that time, right? Because the UN is still brand new.
Yeah.
It's still trying to, establish itself, and its ability to actually enforce its decisions is definitely being tested.
And a lot of people had doubts. I mean, look at what happened to the League of Nations.
Exactly. It completely failed to prevent World War II. So you can understand why some people would be skeptical of the UN's ability to keep the peace.
Yeah, so you have this recipe, right? You have all these ingredients.
Yeah.
Global uncertainty, a new international organization trying to find its footing.
A nation that is determined to get what it wants.
Yeah.
And on top of that, a potential arms race fueled by Cold War tensions.
Powder keg.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's important to remember, though, that this is just one report.
Right. We need to be cautious about drawing any definitive conclusions from a single source.
For sure. But it does raise so many questions.
Yeah, tons.
Like, how would the Cold War superpowers have reacted?
Right.
What impact would this have had on Eritrea?
On Ethiopia's relationships with other countries.
Exactly. And I think it really makes you wonder how things could have gone so differently.
It's a real what-if moment in history.
Yeah, like knowing the long and often very difficult relationship between Eritrea and Ethiopia, it really makes you think about how things might have unfolded if Ethiopia had actually gone through with this.
Fascinating to consider.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that seemingly isolated events, they can have these global consequences.
Absolutely.
And that history is just full of these turning points that could have gone in completely different directions.
Very easily.
Yeah. So we encourage you to check out this report yourself.
Yeah, it's publicly available now.
It is. It's in the CREST archive, like we said.
And it's a real eye-opener.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. All right. Until next time.
See? Bye.